Right, so this is something that just came out yesterday, I believe, and it's this is a Washington Examiner article about it, and it's basically that AOC's chief of staff basically just came out and said that the Green New Deal is it's all about socialism. And why I want to make this video is that number one, it kind of is just another thing. I don't the debunking is the perfect word, but I'll use it anyway. And that debunking climate change, and that if it's really a thing, then how many more of these cases do we need where government just lies to us about their intent and um, does things claiming to want one thing and wanting the other thing? And that, I guess the point I want to make is that whenever the government comes out with a proposal in any way, a lot of them are signed into law, a lot of them are, in that their intent of the proposal is almost never the same as what they tell you. For example, they want the Green New Deal because they want to, combat climate change, when in reality it's about socialism. They want welfare because they want to help the poor, when the poor is not being helped. They want government-funded education because they want people to be educated. Well, people aren't any more educated than they were before government education. So, um, like I said, also in Canada, we have a lot of the provinces have carbon taxes, and the first one to implement it, BC, they had it, I think, for 10 years or so, and pollution hasn't gone down. Carbon emissions haven't gone down at all, and they've had it for going on over 10 years now. And that they say that they're going to put this in to reduce carbon emissions, but it doesn't reduce it. All it does is it's just a tax, and that people need to understand this is that if you're on the left, what you want to do, and it varies, but people still, I mean, even whether or not you're far left, you're moderate left, usually you want to do pretty much the same thing. It's the same for the right. If you're on the left, you want to increase the size and power of government, and you'll do it in any way, shape, or form. And that climate change initiatives are one of those things. So you're going to support it no matter what, even if it reduces climate change or not. Even if climate change is completely disproven, they'll still support it. If you're on the right, you want to reduce the size and power of the state, so you need to oppose it, which is why the Conservatives in Canada, I feel like, don't have any legitimacy in that they're fully on board this idea of climate change being real, and it's all because of humans, and we need to do something to fix it. And that even if you do think it's real, and even if you do think it's caused by humans, then you can still say that you should leave it up to the private sector to deal with it, because government trying to solve these kind of things never works. Like, what problem in society has government fixed? Like, none of them, at least in the modern world. So basically, what I wanted to make, or the point I wanted to get across by making this video, is that the intent of a lot of these policies is not the same as what the government tells you, so you need to dig deeper. And the problem is that the overwhelming majority of people, they're not going to read past the headline or the tweet or whatever it is. They'll hear Justin Trudeau or whatever leader it is tweeting about how great his climate change policy is, or about how great his child benefit policy is that he always talks about that isn't any good. And that they'll read the tweet, they'll feel good about it, they'll retweet it, and they'll think, oh, thanks, Justin, you're doing such a great job. And that they don't actually look into it and realize that the carbon tax has done nothing, the child benefit doesn't really help in any way, shape, or form, all these kind of things. So basically, point being, whenever government proposes these kind of things, especially the most crazy things, like if it's some small little abstract proposal, it's probably not quite to the same extent, but the Green New Deal would alter the way we live in a drastic way. And even the carbon tax in Canada has really, it's drove up the cost of living by a pretty good amount. It's drove up the cost of food in a lot of ways, and it's drove up the cost of employment. I mean, because it's a tax on everything. Like, everything you do requires fossil fuels in some ways to do it. You got to heat your house. You got to air condition your house. Maybe in the summer, you got to have lights on. You got to drive to and from work. Or if you don't have to drive, then the public transportation needs gas. And especially in Canada, we're very spread out too. So that's just even more driving for the average person, because we're such a big country. especially for people who live in rural areas. But even in cities, they're pretty spread out now in Canada. So that's about all I wanted to do for this video. But like I said too, the governments, they're gonna lie to you about this kind of stuff. They do for pretty much everything. Especially the stuff, if they're on the left, they're gonna say whatever it takes to get more taxes, to get more power, to get all that stuff. And like I've said before, in that climate change, whether you think it's real or not, I think the science is pretty clear that, I mean, based off how I'm perceiving it, in that humans probably are having some impact, but it's such a blip on the radar that it's not even worth changing your way of life at all whatsoever. So that's about it as far as this video goes. Like I said, don't trust the government when it comes to these kind of things, especially the further out there people. Like, the more further out they get, I think the more crazy and the more they'd be willing to lie to. And the other problem too is you have people like Justin Trudeau who are very manipulative, who are very cunning, and that they come off as a very innocent, do good kind of person, that they just want to help people. But in reality, you need to look at their policies and what comes of them. Like I said, the carbon tax hasn't reduced emissions at all, which means they should be drastically rethinking this and considering that they're just doubling down on it. That we need to increase it, which means they have a different intent, and that's increasing the size and power of the state. That's hurting the economy, because if you're on the left, you don't want a good economy, because then people are going to be less likely to vote for you. Because how leftist governments get elected is that they promise free shit. Basically, is the only way they get the main reason they get elected. That and wedge issues, which are another topic for another day. But just to finish things off, like I said, do not trust the government when they tell you these kind of things. Their intent is almost always different than what the intent they're telling you is. So just keep an eye on that kind of stuff, because this whole climate change, we need to adopt massive, taxes and lifestyle changes. Unless they're doing it themselves, and unless they're looking back and being like, hey, yeah, that last policy we had didn't do anything, and in reality we thought it was going to do a whole bunch. So we really need to rethink the way we put it in this time. But they don't do that. It's just double down. It's not that we didn't do it right, it's that we didn't do it enough. And that's always the leftist solution. It's that, we didn't give government enough power, we didn't tax it enough, we didn't regulate it enough. It's always just double down, double down, double down. And they're going to keep doing it because they got nothing to lose at this point. So if you liked the video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more.